You are now tuned in to the Commissioner's Conversation.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes, sir. Welcome back. You are tuned in to another episode of the Commissioner's Conversation. I am your host, Commissioner Gordon. We got a special treat this week. A young man I had the pleasure of growing up with, watching from the very beginning, played basketball together. He grew up and sticks with the game. He stuck with the game, and now he's an official. Cedric Shephard, you're an official you're a college official, right?
Right, a college official. Got out of college. I tore my Achilles, so right now I'm just trying to get back right. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to the college level, but I've refereed from the college level, pro level. Had opportunity to go to the NBA camp back in 2008, but had to make a personal decision if I wanted to pursue it, basically being on that road or my family. So I chose my family.
So in case I didn't make it clear, he's a basketball official, and I apologize for that. He's a basketball official. So I want to expand on that. You talked about going to pro camps. You talked about being a basketball player and then having to make that decision in terms of wanting to pursue your dreams in terms of being a player, or like you said, picking the family. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, basically, my journey, started when I played my college ball at Morehouse, and my athletic director, Andre Patillo, he used to brag about, you can't make $3,000 in 2 hours and blah, blah, this and that. So with that being said, that took my interest. I knew by my last year at Morehouse, the pro game really wasn't going to be, especially at the NBA level, that wasn't going to be probably, progressive for me. So, and plus I had a son coming. So it was a decision, about that. So, of course I chose my son. But with that being said, he opened my eyes to officiating, as soon as, I want to say maybe after a year, I graduated Morehouse in 2003. So the next year I got into officiating. The blessing was that a lot of the Division I guys who were pursuing the NBA officiating level at that time, they officiated at my college games. Okay. So when I got into it, having a fresh face, them remember me from playing, they were really so willing to help me move to the level. My goal was to make it to the NBA level. And with that being said, I wanted to do all what I had to do to get there, just like in my playing days. And my first year, I officiated over 365 games. I mean, from rec level, AAU, Pro-Am, men's league, whatever I could get my hands on officiating, I was there. And
I would say, now, in terms of that, like just you putting that number out there, because most people, you think of officials, you think of single games, you think of doing things like that, and they don't really acknowledge the condition that you have to be in to be an official. Okay. Yeah. And like you said, you're doing AAU tournaments, you're doing pro-ams, and a lot of these tournaments, they're averaging, you're doing 2, 3, 4, 5 games, like probably 4 up to like 3 or 4 games a day.
How about 10? I've done 10. Wow. I in my first year, I've done up to, I think the most I did was like 17 games for a weekend.
Wow.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that definitely speaks to the condition of what type of, because you don't really see, like nobody really, and officials are one of those things. It's like the backdrop a lot of times in the game. And so a lot of people don't really acknowledge the officials until a bad call is made. Or something that they don't agree with. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You don't really pay attention, but in football, you see heavier officials. In baseball, you see heavy umpires and officials. In basketball, though, you really don't see that. Like you might see it at the lower level. You might see, a rec league, middle school, maybe. But once you get high school on up, high school, college, NBA, these guys are in shape.
Right. And you have to be in shape with them. You have to make sure that your body is conditioned, running up and down that court. And when you're trying to make it to a certain level, you want to make sure you have that look. How I was trained, they want you to look like a ball player.
Okay.
So that was very important, you know, and for me to stay in shape because I wanted to make sure I looked like a ball player. My stature was there and everything. And with that being said, I got into college my second year officiating to the college level. I started off at Division II ball, and the next 3 years in 2008, I got invited to NBA camp. And that just really blew my mind, you know, just really seeing what it was at that level. And, you know, I was able to officiate G League games and just seeing how the, you know, professionalism you needed to have. And that's very important at the officiating level. You have to have that professionalism. And that's a lot of people don't understand that what you go through as an official, especially at the NBA level, where you have to break down tape before the game, during halftime and after the game. And then if you get calls wrong, then you definitely have to break down that call, write a report, and basically send that in to the front office to let them know why you made that call. Because at the same time, even at the college level, you have to do that because you will have coaches write into your supervisor. And if you can't validate that call, that can cost you a game check or a suspension.
You just broke into something that I didn't even know because, I mean, you think about it as a player, breaking down, watching film, and trying to perfect your craft that way. But then you say it as an official also that you know, and I, quick story, just officiated football for only about 2 seasons. I realized it wasn't for me very quickly.
Gotcha.
But I officiated football, and I was at the junior varsity, right at the varsity level. We were going through it, and we would go over and we would have the meetings and you would talk about different calls. And then we had, I mean, for a football official, they basically broke it down to me such as you don't want to be a part of the game.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So, but I wanted to ask you, was that like that creed pretty much the same? Because the action is so fast in basketball that you almost have to be a part of the game.
Yes, and that's very important. What you mentioned is that the people don't come to see you; they come see the players. So you have to remember that you're there to manage the game. That's your main thing, is to manage the game, manage the players, manage the coaches. You're not there to try to make a scene where you're calling all over the court or you're calling calls that you know that you can't validate. I work with guys that's done that, and they've got embarrassed, you know, by coaches or by the supervisor. Or when I've been in camp, when I go to officiating camp, you'll see, you know, some evaluators, even, you know, and most of your evaluators at these camps, they're either Division I college officials or they're NBA officials, and they'll break you down, you know, and in that field, you have to have tough skin. And that's why I always say it's great for former athletes, because especially in our era we grew up in, G, you know that coaches would say whatever they wanted to say to you. It wasn't no mom and dad coming out the stands saying on kids like that. Whatever the coach said, you did, especially if you wanted to play. So it's the same thing in the officiating game. And I can give you a scenario that I learned going to, I think just the Ohio Valley Conference camp. And basically, I had a evaluator tell me, what did you do? What happened in the third quarter with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left? I didn't remember what I called at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But with me saying, well, I don't know what you're talking about, I didn't respond like that. I said, well, I don't remember. That was the correct answer. Well, this is what happened, blah, blah, this and that. Why did you make that call? And after that, I only needed to know that one time to always remember, when you make a call, and if your evaluator's watching and they want to come back and say, well, why did you call that at 1:38 in the third quarter? You need to remember that call. So I learned a valuable lesson in camp, you know, to remember each play that you called or that you were involved in, because you never know if somebody wants to come back, or if you're in an actual game and your supervisor goes and says, well, why did you call that call? What happened in such and such? You need to remember those plays. So it's a lot that officials have to remember, and detail wise, of what's going on during that game at the time. And man, I could just really go on so many stories, you know, that I've been in a game where it was an overtime game, and the coach actually, it was a foul, the guy tipped it in, it was an and one. I'm in the seat that's the slot of the officiating position, and where the coach was asking me, well, how did you see that play and whatever? And I was for sure about that play. And he said, well, I'm sending it into your supervisor, because they were number 4 in the country at the D2 level. This was Valdosta State in Alabama, Huntsville. And it was a great game, but I knew what I called was right. So he sent the tape into my supervisor, and it was a foul, you know? Right. And me playing the game, my toughest thing, G, was of being a former player, is that I had to get over calling how I play. You know, I played rough. I like contact. So I like to play through that. Well, you can't call like that, like you play. You can't think because a kid gets hit and, you know, he goes through it, that's not a foul, because you might not think it's a foul. You played through it. So it's a lot of detail that goes into it, man. There are a lot of kids, coaches, especially at the AAU level, they don't really know what it takes at all.
And now I want to touch on that, because we were talking kind of before we started recording.
Mm-hmm.
Zion Williamson.
Yes.
He's kind of going through it right now with his size, with his speed, with his with his physique.
Yes.
But he's saying he's taking a lot of punishment. It's almost like the Shaq effect, because he's so much bigger and stronger than other guys, that he's taking on a lot more punishment. Is there something to that? Is it something that, like, a lot of officials would say, oh, you're a big, strong guy? You know, saying that really, where it may have been a foul if you hit Steph Curry like that.
Right.
It's not really a foul if you hit Zion.
Right, because you see Zion is so athletic and so powerful. You see plays during the game where he plays through it. So just to say that the situation what happened where he fractured his hand, and David Griffin went off on the NBA about he's getting hacked. See, in my opinion, a lot of these players play soft. If they don't play through it like how we played in our day, you know, play through contact, play through injuries and all of that. So you as an official, and I'm gonna be honest, for me, of how I was trained, it would have been, and I have some NBA mentors that have shared this with me, it's difficult as they get older to adjust to this level where, you know, if you get a reach, or how you see 3-point players, you know, when they go for a 3-point, they kind of initiate the contact, even though the defensive player brushes away from the contact, they initiate it, and it's still a foul. In our day, that wouldn't have been a foul, because the offensive player initiated the contact. Where in today's game, that's not the case. And a lot of it is because of the type of players they have. They soften up on the rules. You know, when I came out, you could still hand check. You can't hand check no more. So, you know, a lot of that is so different. And so I think with Zion, he's feeling that Shaq effect, because he's been so pampered of getting that call. And now he's at that pro level, and a lot of those officials, they veterans, they like, you can play through that, son. Yeah. You know, and you see him playing through it. So now when he gets a fractured finger, now it's a problem. And so, you know.
And now with that though, you talked about his size, his speed, the whole game, not just one individual guy. Like coming from going from Division II to Division I, on up to G League, into the NBA, into like that speed is a big difference. Like people don't realize that, like it's not like watching a group of 10-year-olds. That it's a much faster paced game, and you have to make split decisions on the fly.
I mean, on the fly, G, I tell you another story. I officiated when the lockout was going on in 2011. I officiated. Damian Wilkins had like a pro-am game with all the NBA players at that time. But my biggest memory was Lou Williams at Atlanta Metro, and AI played in the game. Jeff Teague, Joe Johnson, Dwight. Who else? You name it, they were in that game. And what I learned from them, because I mean, you're talking about active pros that was in the pros at the time, you know, and that speed, that split second, you gotta have it, even when they're just doing a little pro-am game, and they took it serious because they weren't playing ball at the time. So they took that like they were actually in the NBA game. And I tell you something that I learned about the NBA level versus the collegiate level and the high school level. Fourth quarter is when they come to play. because their game is so above everybody. They could coast the first 3 quarters, but when that 4th quarter come, it's a shame. And I give you this a personal story that Jeff Teague was killing AI the first 3 quarters, killing them. That 4th quarter came, AI buddy came and brought him some old AIs from his rookie year, and the rest is history, man. And that's why he was the answer. And I swear this dude went on like probably maybe about an 18-0 run, man. But their game is so at a high level, you got to officiate at that high level. Right. And you got to stay there because they call you out. That's why you see guys talking to the officials the way they talk to them. And because they know the ones who they can talk to and the ones that they can't. So it's a respect level as an official that you need to gain over the years from those players, where they're gonna come to you in a respect way because they know you know what you're doing. But then those they know that there's rookies or basically really that hasn't got to the level, I guess, to where they feel like they call comfort doing their games, they gonna chew you out and they gonna let you know. And don't let the coaches get to you. It's really a shame. So it's a tough industry, brother, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Well, and around that same time was when I started like really doing a lot of reporting, getting into journalism. So right. I kind of got into it, and I started to see a lot of those names you just named. That's exactly what I was going to get into, because I've seen certain guys go at officials extra hard, like whether it was lockout games, whether it's ABL, whether it's just a lot of these other games, and they go at these officials really hard and they talk to him crazy to the point where I would be looking like, damn,
right.
I don't know if he could just talk to me like that. I don't give a damn how much money you making.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So when you touched on the professionalism earlier, that's what I kind of got to thinking about. Like, yeah, you do have to kind of have a certain type of training and a certain type of core, because a lot of times, even you can see it on television sometimes, whether it's some of the superstars that don't think they can get the call, that it didn't go their way. They'll turn and they'll slam the ball, and they barking in the referee's face. And I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure it's a nice chunk of change, but dog, you don't pay me to get, demeaned and talked to like a child.
Right. And that is where you as an official, you either need to evaluate yourself and say, what am I doing wrong? Because I'm not getting the respect from the players. And I can tell you, I knew, I'm trying to think, who was it? It was a kid. I officiated so many kids. But I tell you, that crew back in, this might have been maybe 2012, Jordan Adams and those kids that went to UCLA, Tony Parker and those kids. I fished and Donnie Luwal and Alfaru Aminu, all those kids. I refereed those kids all through high school, okay? And when they got to probably an AAU around their 11th, going their 12th grade year, they would come. I actually established a personal relationship with Donnie Luwal and his mother, because they respected me as an official, because I believe as an official, especially when you're officiating in the summertime, even if you're officiating games, you're still teaching the players. You're telling them what they're doing wrong so they won't repeat it again. I recently saw Kevin Durant ask Ken Washington, who's been in the NBA over 25 years, he came to him, tell me what I'm doing wrong so next time, when I go around to pick, because it seems like he's grabbing my jersey when I'm trying to go around to pick. So tell me what I need to do different to where you won't call it, show me your hands. That's what Ken told him. Let me see your hands. Because if I know your hands are up and then you're getting pulled, I can see his jersey being pulled. But if your hands are down, I can't see that. So it's establishing that type of relationship with the players where they know, okay, I could come to him because he's going to tell me what I'm doing wrong. And then you have some real officials that are snobby and they're going to say, hey, that's just what I call it. Or they're going to ignore you. And players don't respect that. And it's a respect level. It's just like as a player, when you're playing, me and you played together, competing with each other, against each other. It was a respect level there. And it's the same thing as an official also.
Yeah, I've always watched like where coaches and players, some coaches do a better job of saying, hey, I'll talk to the official. You don't worry about the officials. That's how it was when we were coming up.
Absolutely.
Coach would get on you for you going at the official.
That's right.
Because he's saying, look, I'll take care of that.
That's right.
But a lot, like you said, we talked about a difference in today's game. These kids talk to them like they're pros already. And they're going at a lot of it. And there's a lot of coaches who will just sit back and let the kid get technical fouls or whatever and won't step in front of the kid and say, you step to the side. So, yeah, you have to, I really respect the fact that a lot of guys put themselves, and because it takes a lot of restraint. It takes a lot of restraint, it takes a lot of discipline. Because, you know, whether it's 15-year-old or 25-year-olds, you know, you have to be able to communicate. That's what it's all about, communication. And I think that was one of the things you were talking about in that instance right there with Kevin Durant. And, so I wanted to kind of get into, as we talked about, like Kevin Durant, excuse me, Zion, Steph Curry. A lot of times, as we're in the playoffs, pretty much. And as it gets late into the game, there's a lot of times where a player is going to just drive to the basket just to get that call. Does the referee acknowledge, like, okay, that's clearly a move to just try to get to the free throw line?
So I can tell you, the 2018 when I tore my Achilles, I was officiating a program up at Hoops on Memorial Drive, and it was a guy that played just like James Harden. Try to initiate contact, you know, going into the man. And the thing with that I guess bothered me was, I know what you're trying to do. I'm not giving you that. Now, if the defensive player gives it to where it's at a disadvantage to you, yes, but I'm not giving you that. And me kind of had words, but my thing was, you're initiating the contact. And see, this is the thing that guys, if you're not a superstar, don't look for that, because James Harden is a superstar. People come see James Harden play. So if you are being a stubborn official at that level, and James Harden is doing his move where he put his hands all the way out there and to show the ball, and the player's there, and then he goes up under the player's arm to get the foul call, you better call that with James Harden in the game.
Right.
But just say if that was let me give a name. It's a regular player right now. Let's say if that was
Tavius Caldwell.
I'm not gonna say him. Thank you. Yes, they're not giving you that call. I'm not giving you that. People, they not coming to Tavius Caldwell Pope, and I love Tavius, good guy, but they come to pay to see LeBron and AD. Right. So if LeBron and AD come up with that, I'm calling that, but not Tavius Caldwell Pope, because of the fact is they're not coming to see you, and as an official, you got to know that. Because I got a guy, and I'm not going to say his name, he got into it with Kobe. I don't know if you remember, God rest Kobe's soul, but Kobe got into an official years ago where he went up and ran up on the official's face. And the official actually kind of took up for himself, which rightfully so. He's a man. Right. Well, he actually had an injury, and he never got back in the NBA. Now, he's a big-time Division I college official, and I respect him. He's one of the guys that helped me on my journey. But I learned from there. You going at Kobe Bryant, the face of the league? It's not going to be good for you having a career in the NBA. So you got to know those things, too. Who are we going in the game calling today? Okay, I got Embiid and Ben Simmons. I know Embiid likes to do this move. I know Ben Simmons does this move. You know, if this is a move that he gets a foul called on most of the time, okay, if he does that move and then the defense show their hands and they make contact, I got to call it. Even though in your heart, you might not feel that's a foul. Ben Simmons 6'10". You better play through that. But you got to know who you calling in that game. So that's why film is so important. And the great late Hugh Evans in 2006 broke down to me how to watch film. I'm going to tell you honestly, G, I learned how to watch film better as an official than I did as a basketball player. Oh, wow. Because you watch the detail, the movement, you know, you're watching why is he doing this and why is he doing that? And I find myself today, I don't watch the game. I watch the movement. I watch what the players are doing. So I even watch the game differently now because I was trained as an official how to watch film. So I watch the game totally different probably from your average person that watches.
And it's funny. We always talk about, especially our age, guys our age, always want to talk about like how the game is changing. You even talked about the hand checking, initiating contact. I watched, I think it might have been the Hawks game just last night when they were playing the Wizards, and Trae Young is one of those type guys. And what Trae did, he slowed up just a little bit to get the guys running, the defenders running full speed. He slowed up just a little bit. The defender bumps him, and then he goes up and hits the shot. And now you got an and one type of situation. And it was good if you're a Hawks fan because they were down like 4 or 5 points, that you could get an opportunity for a three-point play. But if you're just the guy just watching the game, you're like, damn, that's not a call. Like, how do you make that? So and it's interesting to see that the way that you just broke it down in terms of watching film and knowing that that's his type game. Now, do you have that kind of communication to say, all right, Trae, we're not doing that stuff today? Like,
And that's important because if you remember what was it, early this year or the first half of the season, remember Steve Nash complained about that.
Right, yes.
And they were saying, you remember Trae kind of went in a slump because, after he made those comments. And, they were saying, was that affecting his game? But see, you go back and look at film with Steve Nash, he used to do some of the same little things. I'm not that same move, but he had his tricks in his bag where he can get a foul call.
Right.
So the difference is it's just a different type of game today. So, even as a coach, you got to adjust to that, knowing these just the calls these players are going to get. Trae Young is an upcoming star. So, these officials know when they call in the Hawks game, Trae Young, people paying to see Trae Young play. You know what I'm saying? Right. He is the face of the franchise. So you have to know these certain moves. If you go, just say the first 3 quarters, and he's doing that move, and you don't call that foul. But then in the 4th quarter, you're going to start calling. Now you're going to have trouble from that opponent, coach, because you didn't call it the first 3 quarters, so why are you calling it now? It's the same thing with a charge. You ain't been calling the charge, or I used to always hear, and this is really not at the pro level, but at the college or even the high school level, you ain't called 3 seconds all 3 quarters, and all of a sudden in the 4th quarter, you want seconds. No, you have to. The one thing officials have to do is set the tone of the game. You are the tone setter. You go in there to see how the players are playing, seeing if it's a fast-paced game, if they're playing with a lot of contact, then it's time for you to manage, and then throughout the game, you have to talk to the kids and say, hey, watch that pull now. And then I'm gonna drop a secret that and I coach my son's youth games, and his youth league, I'm sorry, and I'm not gonna say I'm the best coach as far as my mannerism, because I know how officials are supposed to call. And sometimes it be a gift and a curse when you're a coach. But you have to know time and possession. You have to know who's the best player on that team. So if that player has 4 fouls and that's the best player on that team, if you go give him his 5th foul, or say at the pro level his 6th foul, it better be a good foul. Right. Because you are fouling out their best player. And if you foul him out on the ticky-tack call, it's going to be an issue. And you don't want that. So these are just the things that you have to go into. And it's repetition. It's repetition. I tell everybody, man, you didn't learn how to lay the ball up with the left hand in one night. It took time. Right. It took repetition. It's the same thing with officiating. So that was why I was trained to call as many games, because the more games you call, the more plays you go see. Different type of scenarios, and that's how you grow.
And see, with that, like as fans, as guys on the outside that aren't on the court, we often have this philosophy of, and you just kind of touched on it, at the end of the games, the referee swallow the whistle. The referee lets any kind, let it go, let the fouls go or whatever. And sometimes you'll see it on the floor, and sometimes you'll see where the referee is saying, okay, if you get involved, I'm going to blow the whistle, I'm going to make that call. And so
Right.
it often, I think we as fans a lot of times paint all officials one, you know what I'm saying, and you paint with a broad brush.
Of course.
But if you actually watch the games, I think more than likely you'll recognize that some officials call some games differently than others. Yes. Is that because of training, or is that just because of the individual?
I believe it's a little bit of training and a little bit of individual. Now, I'm not bad mouthing on, and if any NBA officials, and I know a lot of them, I'm not bad mouthing. But the new guys that I see coming in the league, I don't believe they have any basketball background. I just don't. The way they call it, I've seen too many plays that's like, huh? And you can tell, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, they've even made it through because they might have an uncle or a dad that's at that level, that know people, you know, and it is a good old boy system. I'm gonna keep it real now. It's a good old boy system, and it also it's a kiss ass system, you know. And with that being said, you know, a lot of these guys that are coming in, you could just tell, like, you couldn't have played the game making a call like that. Right. And so to me, I think personally that it needs to be some reevaluation of how you bring the guys up, you know, and what's their background, or giving them more formal training, because of the fact is you got a lot of guys where you see they taking it out personal on the players, and you should never do that as an official. It's a game, you know what I'm saying? And so it to me, I just believe that the game, the officiating level, and I'm speaking more at the pro level, but I feel like the officiating level has to change in a way to where you got guys that have not only maybe having a solid background, but you put them in more scenarios to where they are prepared versus, you know, I know guys that, you know, I know a guy right now, Guthrie, not Guthrie, I can't call his name. I worked with him years ago, and it was some calls even when we called the game. I was like, huh? But his dad is a supervisor now at the ACC. Okay. So, you know, it's a good old boy system. Yeah. But at the same time, he's a solid official, you know, but you know, it's just, I knew, because I knew him personally, he didn't play basketball growing up. You know, he might have played U ball, but he didn't play at the competitive level. We might have played that. So, you know, it's a difference. But at the same time, I also feel that the NBA level, and not more so the NBA level, but the collegiate level should make sure that the high school level mimics them. And what I'm saying is, it's no shot clock at the high school level. Right. It needs to be a shot clock. That not only prepares the players, that prepares the officials. You know, the same rules that the college level kind of needs to mimic in the high school level, because you got officials that's trying to move up to the collegiate level, and you have kids that want to move up to the collegiate level, right, and then make that understanding of the game and that transition much easier than it is already.
So I want to kind of move, because I see our time is kind of rolling. I want to kind of move on, because we keep talking about like one generation to the next, and yes, a lot of the things, like the game has I won't say it's completely changed, but a lot of the stuff has changed. Like some of the stuff that we see now, that's an average everyday dribble. I'll look at it and say, this dude is carrying. You haven't made a legit dribble all day. I'm trying to think of one. I had a guy was trying to explain to me. We talked about James Harden earlier. This side step. I want to go through this with you. The little side step that he does, and then he shoots the ball. And I couldn't imagine in the 90s, in the 80s, anyone attempting that move and getting the shot off without a whistle going. But I had a guy try to explain to me that instead of taking the 2 steps that you're allowed to go forward, he's taking those 2 steps to go to the side. And I'm thinking to myself, you've already taken steps. Like, I would love to get your view on some of that.
Because that's part of where being a superstar, you can change the game today. You know, just think about back when we were growing up, you could see Barkley get away with an elbow and might not get a tick, but that wouldn't happen to the average player.
Right.
Or you could see Mike talking to the referee real nasty and he wouldn't get a tick either. It's the same thing what James Harden has done. He has mastered a move to where that's one of his signature moves, and you better not call a travel. And that's what happened. And you have that, where the NBA has changed to where it used to be where the league ran the league. Now it's the players that run the league, you know.
Right.
And that right there shows with the side step, two step. Nobody was taught that in our era growing up to do that. That's a travel all day. But in today's game, it's legal. And that's why I tell my oldest son, I said, it'll be hard for your daddy to referee at this level because how I was trained in making that adjustment, I don't know if I'm willing to do it because that's not the game, you know? And I love the game too much to say, well, okay, I'm going to change it just because that's the way the game has changed. But honestly, that's the way the game has changed. So you either go accept it or not, bottom line, you know?
I often tell, like my son and I, we're talking, I'm like, man, listen, if a lot of the stuff, if I knew that we could get away with some of this stuff, I would have been way better off. Like, we talk about you had to be a ball handler with us coming up, and now every time I see a guy dribble, he does this. Yes. I'm like, if I could have done that, hell, I could have been Allen Iverson. I might not have been as quick. I might not have been as quick.
Right.
But damn, I would have had what you consider some handles, you know, whatever. So, but yeah, it's crazy the way the game changes. It's interesting, and kind of transitioning from the officiating part of it just to the game. It's interesting that you were saying that the players are now, it's a player-run league. I often go into a conversations with people about the whole super team model and the difference of super teams. My stance is it's always been super teams. I mean, whether it's been the early Lakers, whether with Magic and Kareem, Celtics when they were running off all those championships, it's always been super teams. It's just that now the players have the power to select the super teams. Are you for or against the players having that power?
Well, on a competitive nature, no. But I understand because think about it. If we, you know, our schools were rival growing up. So if we could have said, if we had the mentality today, we would have said, hey man, all of you all come to North Clayton, all y'all go to Riverdale, and we just come all together, put our team together. But we were such competitors, even though we respected and loved each other. I wanted to compete against Gordon. I wanted to compete against Dave. You know what I mean? We wanted it, and so the nature of the competitiveness has lost to where, hey man, you go to school over here, you go to school over there. You know, well, all of us, man, let's get together and get a team together. And I tell you, now it's so funny you mentioned that. You know, I play AAU with Deion Glover, Jermaine Jones, and all that. So when Deion transferred to Cedar Grove, it was 3 of them from our AAU team on one team. Then they got Wallace on the team. So you have 4 players from our AAU program on one team. And I remember Gino saying, you want to go over there? You know, I want to go transfer over there. And we were like, no, bro, I want to play against them. Right. And so in today's mentality of the players today, they're going to go over there and say, hey, man, you know, 3 of my friends over there playing, I got a chance to get over there. Let's make it happen. Let's put a super team together. And I don't knock that, but I think it takes away the competitiveness of the game when you do that, you know, because in our era, that was a no-no. Right. And then just what it was, you know, but times have changed and that's the thing. And I, you know, to me, I've learned, because one of my buddies said, you know, stop talking about them old Al Bundy stories or whatever, you know, and so I just look at it now, man, you know, you just got to accept it what it is. It's the way the game is played. And you know what I mean? Hey, hopefully, you know, like right now, I'm a big advocate that they need to change the court, you know, the dimensions of the court, because the 3-point line is getting ridiculous to where, you know, in our day, you go lay a ball up, you know, if you got a 3-pointer or easy lay, you better go lay that ball up. And
Right.
today, they shoot the 3 and they got the lane wide open. And so one thing that really bothers me, and I saw this happen to Michigan twice this year, where they were down by 1 in the Big Ten championship, and then in the NCAA, they were down by 2, where the boy took a 3-pointer and he could have went to the hole and to the hole and at least got fouled or at least won the game. But it's different, and I'm good friends, and this is a blessing to me because, you know, we looked up to the Fab Five. I befriended Ray Jackson, who played with the Fab Five. So me and him talk through Facebook, and we talk about all the time just how this game, you know what I mean, they get away with so much stuff. But like at the end of the day, like we said, that's just how the game is today. So we can't go back and say it should be like this, because that's the same thing the era before us saying how when we played, you know what I mean, it was different. So it is.
And to echo that, I remember one time we were playing with Outlaw. I was playing Outlaw, and I did something, shot the 3. He blew the whistle. Stop, hold on. He ran out.
That's right.
And he told me, he said, you wide open. He said, the man, you know, probably the guy was playing me back into he was almost back into the lane.
Right.
He said, take 2 dribbles. I took 2 dribbles, and now with the way you can jump, you should be fleshing on this man. And I'm like, and that kind of changed everything that I was thinking about. He said, with the way you can jump, you should be putting him in the basket. But you are settling for this 3, you know what I'm saying, with this low percentage shots. Now, now everything is analytics now. Analytics,
yes,
you should be taking that 3, or you shouldn't be taking these mid-range, because that's basically what analytics has done, is taking the mid-range out.
Absolutely.
I think one of the reasons why we look at Kobe or Kawhi or one of these those type players, and they're so successful, was because they had that mid-range game, and you had to play them all over the floor. There was no, okay, well, he ain't gonna shoot that. I know he ain't gonna shoot that. You had to play them. You had to play Kawhi the same way.
That's right.
But analytics has changed the game so much to where it's a 3-point game, and now, what's your take on the fact that it's almost eliminated the big man?
Yeah.
Or I won't even say eliminated. It changed the big man's game.
Yes. And that is so true. And I believe that's why they're going to change the dimensions of the court, because they got to bring the big man game back into existence, because now you're taking big men to where they're guards now. They're not even taking advantage of their size anymore. And you know, that's how we grew up. Coach saw you had size. Well, you better take advantage of the size. Like you said, Allah said, with your jumping ability, well, you better get to that hole and put them in the cup. And so with that being said, if they make the court wider, they stretch the 3-point line out, you're going to have to put the big man game back in. You're going to have to use that mid-range game, because again, it took people X amount of years to master that 3-point shot, where it became a regular shot to these guys, you know? And so the same thing, you know, I feel with opening that paint, making it wider, making it maybe a little European, where the big man game can be utilized like it should, because in my opinion, we're not teaching the kids basketball. If you see where everybody shooting a jump shot and you think that's the way. That's why you see these kids just shooting the jump shot. You have to be a basketball player. You need to know how to post. You need the mid-range. You need the 3-point shot. And then on the defensive end, you need to make sure that you want to stop your man. That's something that I see a lot of kids just from coaching youth all this year. They don't have the pride in, man, I'm stopping him. He ain't scoring on me no more. Right. You know, they think, hey, man, no, that's what he do. That's what he good at. It is. And boy, I'm going to take you out to LD. And then if you want to fight me, let's fight. Yeah. You know, but you're not going to keep scoring on me, killing me like that. So it's just the mentality just has changed, man. And, you know, with the big man, I think putting it back in is going to bring that toughness back in the game that we were used to seeing growing up and how we played, you know.
And that defense is pretty much a pride thing. I think that's one of the things that we see out, because, and you talk about how the 3-point line, Steph Curry, it's the game's gift and curse. Because
Yes.
while he's one of the most entertaining players, like I always tell him about it, a hot Steph Curry, there's nothing more fun to watch than this dude come down, pull up from 35, 40 feet,
Right.
skimming and dancing and jumping up on tables and going crazy. But at the same time, because he's 6'3", because he's 195, probably around 200 pounds at the most, he looks like the average everyday guy. He looks like what my uncle or my dad or somebody looks like as a kid growing up. You say, oh, okay, well, he's about the same size as my pops. He's about the same size as my cousin.
Right.
So you think, oh, that's the game for me.
Right.
And they go out and they emulate that. Well, we were coming up like you had big guys, you 7-footers. Jordan was probably was one of the guards that you would say was dominating the game. Everybody else was big, and so you were going to emulate something. You were emulating, you would do the ball handling and everything. But everybody, whether it's Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, 7 feet tall, shooting threes. It's crazy. So that's the game, and I'm surprised now that you mentioned the dimensions. I thought about it a long time ago that they would expand and go to that European paint. But it's never happened. I don't know why the NBA hasn't done that, but they've made every other attempt to open up the floor.
Yes. See, I've heard these talks, I could say probably the last 10 years, and as you say, nothing had happened, but I think it's getting to a point to where they're seeing that it's being too much guard dominated versus it's not a balance, where the big man guard. You see it with the draft picks. It's guard dominated.
Right.
DeAndre Ayton, he was a rarity, but really you don't even hear his name too much because it's guard dominated league, And so, these days, if you 7 feet, they looking for you to shoot. And you got to shoot. And it's like I was telling one of my buddies, I said, for this generation, especially, I'm good friends with Sam Vincent that played in the 80s. Sam is a big time overseas coach. And Sam said that for American kids today, it's going to be so hard to get to that pro level because now you got NBA Africa that's about to establish. You got how the Europeans, there's just more and more of them coming. So now, really they're looking for in American players, the athleticism, they're not looking, you have to, it's just very competitive versus when we thought it was competitive. It's very competitive because now the game is a global game.
Right.
And it's no thing about, having maybe 1 or 2, 3 foreign players in the league. You got at least 4 or 5 on each team today. So it's so competitive. So, that's why, I used to ask kids when I was at referee AAU tournaments, what are you going to do if you don't make it to the league? Oh, I'm going to make it to the league. I said, all right, I thought the same thing. I said, you ever thought about officiating? Oh, I don't want to be no referee. I said, listen, bro, the one thing that officiating did for me, it filled that void of me not making it being a pro ball player, because I got the opportunity to referee at that level. It did it for me, G. I was fine. I don't have no regrets, no sad feelings or anything, because of the fact is I at least made it to that level as officiating, not, having an NBA referee career, but I had the opportunity, and that was enough for me. You know what I'm saying? And so I wish, and I pray there is some programs that happen to save some of these student athletes, and even on the football side, even on the soccer side. But I'm saying, our culture mostly sticks to football and basketball. We're having a program that you can tell these kids, hey, let's go over here, let's try to be an NBA referee. Or maybe you have a goal to be an NBA agent. It's just too many other ways that you can still be a part of the game. And somebody we grew up with that I have mad respect for is John Beckett. John Beckett, who played at Sandy Creek. I played against him at college, and I saw John working for the Hawks when he was a videographer. I saw him going to TNT, do highlights. Now he's over player development for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I played on a couple teams. I played on a couple teams with Team Georgia with John. Yeah.
Yeah, John has the ultimate story to me to tell you how the game, you can still be a part of the game without being a player. And
Right.
I think so many kids need to hear that, because today's day, it's not like how we grew up, that we thought maybe, if I get to the league, I could save my family, I could get them out of the hood or buy my mom a house. It's too many other ways to make money to be a part of the game than just being an NBA player.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you in, because our culture, we often always only see the person that's highlighted. We only see the LeBron James. We only see the Steph Currys and the players. And no one gives you that behind the scenes. Like you just said, the officials, the guy that's commentating with the headset on that's doing the play-by-play.
That's right.
The cameraman. I mean, no one even thinks about the cameraman. The cameraman makes he earns a good living.
Absolutely.
Like, there's so many avenues that you can go and you can make money, but nobody usually tells our children that these are the ways you can make money. It's almost like it's a secret to kind of, if you don't make it to LeBron level, then back to the ghetto you go.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So
right.
We have to do this, to shine light on this, all these other opportunities, to say, okay, because like you said, someone talked to you and extended their hand out to you to say, hey man, this is another way. And so you in terms are doing that very same thing to others, to say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Because a lot of times, a lot of these parents are just calling children. They're being the child's friend more than the parent. And they're not actually saying, okay, this is what you're going to do. So they're just feeding into their ego and saying, okay, oh, well, you're going to make it to the league, or you're going to do what it is. You have to be honest with kids and honest with them enough to give them options.
Yes.
And when they have those options, they'll do better. So that's one of the reasons why I found it very important to have you on, because those are their options. They're not just you have to do this or else. Yes.
It's too many in today's society with social media and all of that. It's just too many opportunities, and we cannot have our kids being brainwashed thinking. And I am real big against kids playing AAU tournaments every weekend, and and you going here and you going there. I mean, I didn't start traveling until I was 15 years old out of the state playing basketball. I felt like that was an age where I had earned that. You got kids going out 8, 9, 10, they going all around the country. So and when they get 14, 15, 16, when it really counts, what do they have to look for?
Right.
And the thing is also that I see, and not going off the subject, but these kids, they're not learning to practice. When you're playing AAU, and I played on one of the best teams that ran through the state, we only went out of town 2 weekends out of the month. The other 2 weekends we practiced, because we went over what we was doing wrong. And that's what we, and that's how we learned. So, that's a whole nother topic. But, with that being said, it's just too many opportunities today to where a kid just has to focus on being a player. And like you said, if I don't make it, then I'm back home in the ghetto and I don't know what to do. We can't do that. And to finish it off, I was talking to a young lady last night at the event that I told you I had to go to. She played ball at the University of Illinois. She's from Orange, New Jersey. And I actually ran into her because I officiated one of her games when I was doing middle school ball before COVID, when I was trying to get back in officiating and getting my Achilles together. And she said when she went to University of Illinois, they told her, these are the majors that our players normally major in. They did not once ask her, what did you like? What do you want to major in? And then, like she said, she majored in that, and then she went overseas, played ball, then she came back, and then she had to look for a job. And it's so unfair, because I know playing at the University of Illinois, she made revenue for that school. So to give her due, you should make sure you have opportunity for her if she want to be a part of the game still, or whatever she wants to do, she has that opportunity. So it's just so many things that, you know, need to be advocated in the youth today, especially our culture, to let them know is other avenues and other options instead of you being a ball player, you know, because everybody needs an agent. They need a massage therapist. They need they with mental health being an issue. They need a therapist that can help their mental. They need a financial manager. So many things, G, you know, man, the list goes on, brother.
And see,
definitely.
It's interesting that you told that story, because I often tell people a lot of times, like, this school isn't always looking out for your self-interest, despite what the coach is coming to your living room and told your mother or your grandmother, or they're not looking out for your best interest. That example is saying, we want you to stay eligible. So for you to stay eligible, we believe you should take one of these courses. And so regardless of whether you can find a job or not once you're done, that has no idea. That we don't care. We care about us going to this tournament and winning this championship.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up because I know we both probably have to move on right quick. But I want you to also I want you to also talk about, because investments, I know that you have your family investment going on and everything like that too. I want you to also talk about what else you're doing outside of the basketball game.
Yeah, so I invest in real estate. Right now, I'm actually working on a workbook where, let me first. I invest in real estate. I own a print shop. I've been doing that for almost 17 years. But then with the real estate investment and the financial literacy, I am working on now, and G, you a part of it too. So, you know, I just wanted to give you a heads up, but working on creating a workbook where it's an entrepreneurship workbook.
Okay.
And we're basically, I want to break it down into chapters where we're talking about, you're learning the fundamentals of real estate. You learn the fundamentals of doing a podcast, again, the journalist, you know, being your own journalist, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're basically, you know, if you want to be a NBA agent, you know, you that's an entrepreneurship, because you don't have to be under a firm to represent players, you know what I mean? You know, learning about stocks, learning about, you know, anything that's an entrepreneurship driven, because one thing athletes are not told, you're an entrepreneur already. You're an independent contractor. And so if athletes understand that at a young age, and I'm talking about working with kids from 6th to 12th grade, we gonna have a whole nother world come out here where you gonna see people out here really making the difference of understanding and creating wealth through their own knowledge, and having that knowledge of utilizing their network and what they have built. And that's just the main thing. One thing I heard a quote said, you don't build wealth off of hard work, you build wealth off of strategies. And so when people understand that you create strategies to build wealth, and you create different avenues, and then if an athlete, I believe it would be an easier transition, because it's like, okay, I know I got to do this for this team. I got to play this way for this coach. It's no different, you know what I mean? And then creating a strategy for yourself. So that's what I'm really working on now. You know, it's really, I want to build for the youth. I want to educate the youth, because my wife is a high school teacher. She teaches at South Atlanta, and I hear the horror stories, and it's awful, man. And one thing about it is, these kids are our future. If we don't put into them, we gonna be in trouble.
Right.
We got kids that got to grow up around these kids. They gonna be in trouble. Exactly. So I want to touch as many kids as possible, man, and it take a team, brother. So, you know, teamwork is a dream work. So again, we're gonna be playing together again, brothers. In another
Hey, sign me up, man. I'm all for it, because we've had these conversations before, because we've been around each other and been around each other with our kids. So yeah, definitely sign me up. Once again, like we lost him. You are tuned in to the Commissioner's Conversation. I am your host, Commissioner Gordon. I appreciate you for being here, for tuning in, for my special guest, Cedric Shephard. I appreciate it. Until next week, thank you. Holla.